I want to revisit Bryce not making the top 18 quarterbacks. So for those of you just tuning in, Bryce Young, not on the list put out by ESPN today. ESPN each day is putting out one position of top 10. And then to reach these top 10s, they've pulled executives, front office executives, coaches, and scouts from across the league anonymously. They all submitted their top 10 at each position. And then, I assume, 10 points for one, 9 points for two on down. They've decided, they've put them all together and come up with a top 10. But when they release the list, they also add honorable mentions. And then they add also receiving votes. So if we take all the honorable mention, all the top 10 quarterbacks, today's quarterbacks day, which is, was revealed today. Top 10 quarterbacks, there were 2 honorable mentions, and then there were 6 also receiving votes. So we can loosely call that a top 18. Bryce Young's not in there. Now, earlier today, we discussed the merits of his inclusion or not inclusion, and I side on they're right. He's not done enough yet to be a top half of the league quarterback or even middle of the pack.
That's fair.
But I also have a rule. I don't like to just be a problems guy. I like to be a solutions guy. So the next question is, what is he missing? Right? When you look at the players above him on the list, and obviously the top 10 are the guys you'd think, honorable mention, C.J. Stroud, Jordan Love. Also receiving votes, Kyler Murray, Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers, Tua Tagovailoa, and Bo Nix. What does he have to do to leapfrog some of those? Or all of those, right? If he wants to make the top 10, he has to be better than all of them. How does he do it? What is he missing? I wrote down 3 things that Bryce Young didn't do enough of, or 3 aspects of his game that need to greatly improve. 1, consistency. As good as he was at the end of last year, that, for me, that just pretty much brings him back up to neutral, right? If you're awful for the first half of the season, pretty good / above average for the second half of the season, that doesn't mean you had a really good season, right? That means that you lost but made it close, right? If you're down 21 in the first half and you win the second half by 14, you didn't win the game. You played better in the second half, but you're still down a touchdown. That's kind of where I'm looking at it with Bryce. Until he has the consistency to, over a full season, play winning quarterback football, he can't be included with even guys like, Baker Mayfield or even Bo Nix, right? Guys that have made the playoffs and have played well for an entire season. Next thing he needs, volume. Volume. And I'm not sure why he hasn't been able to pull this off, but in his career, he has 1 300-yard passing game. This past season, he had none. Right? As good as he played, as exciting as everything was, all of that, look at him. He's playing better. He's improved. He is the guy of the future. He topped out at 298 yards, and that was in an overtime game. So, and it would be one thing, by the way, if he won a ton, right? Like Patrick Mahomes didn't throw for a bunch of yards last year, but they were winning the games. Okay, if you're never behind and you're playing that game, the clock management, everything, sure, you might not have the volume. But when you're losing a ton, when you're getting a top 10 pick every year, you should have a quarterback that can go get it. So the volume not being there is an issue. He needs 300-yard passing games. And then the last thing are the wow plays. More and more, and this wasn't always the case, more and more to be one of the elite quarterbacks, you need to bring something. You need to have a superpower, right? You need to do something special. Gone are the days of the statue in the pocket, good decision maker. Chad Pennington. I don't know why that's the one that pops into my head. Chad Pennington doesn't exist in modern football, right? Where he's just not really a super strong arm, not really fast, but he's a good decision maker. You need to be a great decision maker and have something else to be one of the elite guys. Right, when you look at the top, Pat Mahomes, you imagine him running full speed to his left, throwing with his off-arm, crazy, ridiculous plays. Josh Allen, right, he's running somebody over and then hurdling the next guy. Joe Burrow is the swaggiest guy on the planet, right, keeping the play alive, throwing it a million miles to Jamar Chase and Lamar Jackson and Jaden Daniels and on and on. Like, the coolest thing Bryce Young did was throw a pretty routine pass and then turn around and put his arms up before he caught it, like Steph Curry shooting a 3.
Great meme.
Which is swagger, like, don't get me wrong. Confidence, I like it. But it's really not like a absurdly impressive play within the structure of football. It's just you made a pretty good play, super swaggy. He needs wow plays. Again, this is if you want to be considered a top 10 guy, right? You need to – there's kind of two ways that I judge quarterbacks. And I played college football, played quarterback at the University of Delaware, so I'm not a complete novice, but I dive super aggressively into the NFL draft every year. And as I get better and better and better at honing my process, there's two things I look at. One is how good they are within the structure of the offense. That is when there's a good play call. Do you get everything out of it, right? If the offensive line blocks and the receiver is open, are you darn near 100% of the time getting the most out of that play? I think Bryce does that, right? If the offensive line blocks and the receiver gets open, I have a ton of confidence that play will work and he won't be the mistake, right? Which, don't take it for granted. There's a lot of quarterback, there's some really talented guys that mess those up more than you think. The second part, which is equally as important, is what do they do when the play doesn't work, right? When the offensive line lets one guy through, when the receiver slips, or when your number two option on a read, it doesn't get open, and you got to buy time, you got to get to the next, you got to improvise. That's where Bryce hasn't been good enough. He's made plays, not like he's made zero of them, but he hasn't made enough of them. And towards the end of the season, he got better. Not going to hear me argue that. Obviously, against the Falcons, he was very good at darn near everything. Not going to hear me argue with that. But it's the improv. It's when things break down. He has to not just be pretty good occasionally. You got to put those together more often. It's part of the job requirement now. In 1994, maybe he would have gotten by with just when the play works, making sure it happens and throwing it away every time the play breaks down. But that's not how we judge players anymore.
No.
Yeah, that was ruined by kind of this generation. Sorry. By the way, I think he can. I think he's actually better with his feet than he even gives himself credit for.
Yeah.
I want him running, not necessarily running like he's Lamar Jackson going to,
No, yeah.
take hits 15 yards down the field, but running out of the pocket, buying time, keeping his eyes downfield. I don't think he gives himself enough credit for that. I think he could do it more.
Once he gets comfortable, because I feel like he started getting comfortable towards the end, and you could see it on the field more. So hopefully that carries over. We'll see.
We'll see. Wouldn't be the first guy. This is like, I promise I'm not always just this Debbie Downer, like wet blanket. Wouldn't be the first guy to have like a hot streak at the end of a year that doesn't translate. I think Panther fans are just a hint out over their skis on like, he was good the last 7 games, which means he's only going to get better from here. It's like, well, I've seen guys have good 7-game stretches.
We also have to remember towards the end of the season, the teams that we played as the Panthers, not the greatest.
Hey, we take wins wherever we can get them.
I mean, I'll take a W whenever I can.
But also, like, he
you gotta be realistic.
He did down the stretch play well against the Chiefs, play well against the Eagles. I wouldn't say those were great games the entirety of, but when you show up in the big moments against those teams, I give you credit for that. So they weren't all against scrubs either, although some of them were.